many of the men in the relationships that we have in our day-to-day lives are simply default relationships. And a default relationship would be, for example, a man that you went to high school with and you've just been friends for the past 30 years. And maybe that relationship is no longer serving you. Or it happens to be the guy that you work with at the office, or your neighbor, or in a lot of cases, it's your wife's friends' husbands. And these are all default relationships. And there's nothing inherently wrong with having a default relationship as far as having your band of brothers. But if you're not deliberate and intentional about it, and you don't have systems for ensuring that you guys are motivating, inspiring each other, holding each other accountable, and pushing on each other the way men do, you're going to fall short. I mean, really, for most men, the last time they had this type of brotherhood was probably either in the military or in sports in high school, and for those that went on and played college ball at some level.
Fatherhood was never meant to be a solo mission, but somewhere along the way, we were told to figure it out alone. And today, when we do show up with strength, society calls it toxic. That ends here. Dad tribes is where fathers rise together, where brotherhood replaces isolation, and where leadership at home creates freedom for their families. This is the Dad Tribes Podcast, where we're turning fatherhood into a brotherhood. Welcome in. All right, guys, so welcome back to the Dad Tribes Podcast. I have a very special guest on. I've known, this is Ryan Michler. Is it Michler? Michler? I always said Michler.
You got it right.
Okay,
you got it right the first try.
I've followed Ryan for, I want to say 2017, 2018. So it's probably been a good 7 or 8 years. I wasn't just a follower. We've interacted many times. I think I met you at the tail end of my PR business, and I started that veteran stuff for a little while. And then my life took a, I can't even say 180 or 360. I feel like there's a lot more than that. It's a bunch of turns, right? And then I know you went through a few of your own obstacles, as happens being a man and a father and a husband. Those obstacles come up, right? So, but I followed you since I got introduced to you through the Russell Brunson world, and I saw you in Order of Man. The podcast, I listened to the podcast and I loved it. I know one of my favorite ones was Jocko, right? Jocko Willink. I'm a huge fan of his. And so I listened to that one, and that's when I started really diving in deep and following you more. At that time, your beard was, I don't know, down to halfway into your chest back then.
Yeah, it was quite the beard, but I trimmed it down several years ago. I was doing jujitsu and it just wasn't working anymore. So I had to take it down a little bit.
Yeah, I remember you saying like it was getting tugged on and pulled on, and it was not, it wasn't working well for you.
Yeah, well, Andy Stump one time went to grab my lapel and ripped out a whole chunk of my beard, and I think that afternoon or that evening I went and trimmed it all off because that was painful and it was no longer serving me.
Yeah, I think at that point, like, all right, that's, it was an epic beard though. This one I've had for a couple years now, and I think, I don't know if I just don't have the capability, but I'm just not growing longer. It seems to just grow out, and so I just keep it trimmed up. I just keep it at this level because I'm bald. I have no hair, so if I have no beard, I look like I'm a sick patient. So I gotta have hair somewhere.
That's fair. That's fair.
But so to everybody watching this, I've followed Ryan a long time. He does great things, and he's I don't even want to say controversial. I think he's old school. He believes in the old school version of man, which is something I align with, something I believe in. And he teaches 4 core values and things that he educates on. He interviews some of the best men that people that you may have never heard of before, and people you may have seen on international stages with the Order of Man. He also does Friday field notes. So there's some times where he just dives in on his own thoughts and his own processes as well. I enjoy those myself too. And then he runs Iron Council. And for those of you that are watching this, Iron Council is really cool. When I met him, it was $64 a month. I think at that time, I actually joined the Iron Council for a little while, and he used to do digital courses. I took some of your digital courses when you were offering those on like community building and stuff. And so I really followed him. And Ryan, at this point, you got over 1,100 men in the Iron Council, right?
Yeah, just right around there. That's right.
Okay. And the prices has gone up. Now it's, I believe, $97 a month to be part of the Iron Council. And it's just a big brotherhood, right? And you meet over Zoom calls and you have missions and ideas and you have teams and you have groups. It's not just like 1,100 men in one Zoom call, right? You've got them broken out into
Right.
teams.
Yeah, I mean, I found that it's increasingly difficult for men to figure out ways to converse and interact and forge bonds together. We're so busy, everybody's scatterbrained. Many of the men and the relationships that we have in our day-to-day lives are simply default relationships. And a default relationship would be, for example, a man that you went to high school with and you've just been friends for the past 30 years. And maybe that relationship is no longer serving you. Or it happens to be the guy that you work with at the office, or your neighbor, or in a lot of cases, it's your wife's friend's husbands. And these are all
Right.
default relationships. And there's nothing inherently wrong with having a default relationship as far as having your band of brothers. But if you're not deliberate and intentional about it, and you don't have systems for ensuring that you guys are motivating, inspiring each other, holding each other accountable, and pushing on each other the way men do, you're going to fall short. I mean, really, for most men, the last time they had this type of brotherhood was probably either in the military or in sports in high school, and for those that went on and played college ball at some level. And that's the majority. That's 99.9% of men. And so even though there might be men orbiting and floating around your circle, guys just aren't connected in a way that is conducive to their development and growth.
Man, this is going to make me want to go dive straight in, right? So here at Dad Tribes, we have 10 commandments, right? So the 10 commandments are what we follow. It's not the biblical 10 commandments. I think those are great as well. But we've got our own 10 commandments for Dad Tribes. And the first one, when I was looking at interviewing you, is like, man, he'd be good for commandment number 3. And commandment number 3 is sharpen, don't shatter. And what that means is that men should be there supporting, holding each other accountable, pushing each other forward, telling each other, hold on. Can you hear that in the background?
I can't hear it, but I'm a little deaf, so
okay.
I was I was in artillery, so I'm a little deaf. So it's
okay.
Don't ask me.
Well, I have the 88 mic, so I've been blown up a couple times myself.
There you go.
But all right, so we'll go. I'm not even going to cut that out. Everybody, I'm at my house right now. I've got my kids out in the living room. My other daughter's getting ready to go to a modeling class 2 hours away. So this is chaotic fatherhood being chaotic fatherhood. So going back into the 10 commandments, number 3 is sharpen, don't shatter. And I think a lot of times, especially online, and I've seen you be attacked as well, is online, you've got a lot of men who just tear each other down, right? And the internet trolls, the keyboard warriors, whatever you want to call them. It seems like today, a lot of men are there, trying to tear each other down instead of sharpen, right? Instead of, like iron sharpens iron. Which is why I know it's a huge part of the Iron Council, right? Of what you run is that saying is iron sharpens iron. We need to motivate and push each other forward. What is it? Why does that not inherently happen? Why do we focus on surface level relationships? Just the guy we can go, watch the football game with and have a couple of wings and a beer or two. Like, what is it that, why aren't men inherently seeking, or maybe they are, I don't know. What's your opinion? Are they inherently seeking, or are they just being okay with this surface level relationships and this mundane lifestyle?
The majority of men are not diving deeper than having those surface level conversations. It's a relatively small percentage of men who are looking to grow and expand and develop and build and get better and hold each other accountable and improve, which is why it's so darn hard for so many men who want to have a brotherhood like this to actually find it where they are locally, because these default relationships that they're in with other men are more worried about going and grabbing a beer or fight night or the game or any number of things that I don't think are wrong. They're just not deep, and they're not going to help you develop and improve in a way that the men that we work with want to. So I think the reason is because staying on the surface is the path of least resistance. Number one, there's no threat there. If I don't have to share any of my weaknesses, if I don't have to talk about what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, or compare myself to your growth and your progress, there's no threat of risk there. I don't need to expose myself in any way. I don't need to show how inadequate I am in some of these ways. And it's kind of a don't ask, don't tell policy. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to address it. And we're all going to assume everybody is doing well, which leads into the next point. If you know somebody is doing well, or if one of your guys is actually holding you accountable, maybe he thinks more highly of you and he's calling you up to do something bigger and better with your life, you have nowhere to hide anymore. There's nowhere to hide. Everybody sees it for what it is, and now you actually have to do the work or you're out of integrity. So in a lot of these cases, most men are pretty happy with not having to go in any deeper because they don't want the risk of looking foolish and they don't want to do the work that would make them great.
And I think it also ties into vulnerability, right? Being vulnerable and open with where you're failing and where you're sucking, right? I don't think we all go through seasons where we suck in a different place. I don't think we're ever perfect at any time in every category of our life. There's always something that can be done better or worked on or fixed or whatever, right? Which ties into commandment number 6, never settle, right? A man who stops growing has already started decreasing, right? Has already started shrinking because he's not working towards becoming better. And one thing, I mean, you know about what we do here at Dad Tribes. One thing that I've seen, and it's something I've really got to stray away from, is we've got guys reaching out begging for money, right? Like, hey, I'm staying at a hotel. I'm just in a rough spot in my life, and I need some money to pay for the hotel room, or I need help with some groceries and things like that. And let me say, I'm not judging anybody's position. Everybody goes through hard times. Everybody goes through rough times. But yep. Are these men going to the pawn shop and buying a lawnmower and going door to door to go cut some people's lawns so they can buy groceries for their kids? You know what I mean? Or are they turning to social media and starting a GoFundMe saying, hey, I'm not taking on my responsibilities and my role as a father and a provider. And so I'm depending on all these other people on social media to go fund me because I didn't take care of my job, or I didn't save right, or I didn't do what my responsibility was as a father and as a man. And again, I'm not judging people who go through hard times. I've been through plenty of them, financially, emotionally, all that stuff. But it seems like the easier route is, hey, let's start crowdfunding to take care of my responsibilities instead of manning up and doing what has to be done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we have rules in place within our organizations that we don't allow for that type of solicitation because it isn't the purpose of the group. Now, that doesn't mean that we as men won't rally behind another guy as we see him struggle, if and only if we see him putting forth the effort. And this is part of the reason that it's so crucial that every man learn to build a band of brothers in a system, not just guys, not just buddies. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a very clear and deliberate path to building a hyper successful band of brothers, guys that you can lean on, guys that are qualified, guys that are credible, guys that have authority and influence in their lives, guys that are connected, men who have insight, men who have the fortitude and the courage to be able to tell you what you need to hear. We will help guys like that when they need it, but we need to make sure that these are individuals who are putting forth the effort. That's not to discount charitable work or proper donations to individuals who are less fortunate, of course, but that isn't the purpose of what we're talking about. So I think there's a greater call to do something different so you don't find yourself as often in those positions of needing financial resources because you're locked in every other aspect of your life.
Right. And what I tell everybody is, hey, if you want to make some extra money and you want to come into the community and say, hey, does anybody have any side work? Does anyone need any house repairs or lawn care?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If they want to come in and offer a service to the community to make some money, I won't force them to advertise. I will approve that post. Like, my team will approve it. We'll let them blast that out because they're trading their time for money. They're exchanging a service for financial gain, right? And I have no problem with that. But to me, reaching out to, like, I have a lot of people who've never talked to me before, and the first message they send me is, hey, I'm in a rough spot. Can you donate to my GoFundMe, or can you pay for my hotel room? And I've never even spoken to this individual before, right? And to me, it's no different than pandering on the side of the road when you're stopped at a stoplight with someone with a sign begging for money. It's just, there's a difference between being willing to do the work to pull yourself up, along with your brothers pulling you up, versus everybody should just give me money because I'm asking for it. And again, we've all been in tight spots, right? We've all been through life circumstances. So
Sure.
for those listening, don't think I'm hating on you if you're not rich. I'm not rich by any means. But I think there's just a way of making sure that you take care of your family and your needs as a man, and prioritizing taking action versus expecting contributions from people you've never spoken to before.
Yeah, and I don't think you're tearing anybody down. In fact, if anything, I think you're giving them opportunities to be more valuable, produce more valuable, and make something of their lives without having to rely on handouts and offerings from other people. It's not a good way to live. Granted, you might find yourself in that position, but there's things that you can do so you don't have to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, going along that route, I've been watching some of your, I saw you start posting on TikTok more. So I've been watching those videos. That's just my platform now. I depend on TikTok because I get a lot more exposure than Facebook and Instagram. And I was watching different videos that you've done. And another core thing that you talk about is physical health, right? Now, you're not over there saying you got to be a bodybuilder or a gym rat. You don't got to be over there, the strongest man or competing to be the strongest man in the world. But you do talk about physical fitness, and that's actually number 6 of our commandments is honor the temple, right? And what that means is or not number 6, I'm sorry. Another one of our commandments is honor the temple. And that means make healthy choices and healthy decisions for your life and for your children, because your children's mimic what you do, right? And so kind of go into detail on what you teach to your men of the Iron Council and Order of Man on the physical health side. Like, what is your core values and core teachings and insights on that topic?
Well, before I get to that, I do want to back up a little bit, because there's something I think is at the premise or the core of what we're talking about here. She's cute.
Thank you.
And the premise is protect, provide, preside. That's our motto. And I feel like that aligns well with our organization. That's what we believe in. Those are the roles that we espouse, that we want to strive to be better at. And so in order to be a better protector, a provider, and the third component is preside, to lead, you have to have some key areas of your life dialed in. So the first area is calibration. And when I say calibration, I'm talking about you being well calibrated, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Number 2 is your connections, the relationships that you and I have, the relationship I have with my children, the relationship I have with clients and with mentors and friends and my band of brothers. Third is what you're talking about here now, which is condition. That's your physical health. And then 4th is contribution, becoming a man of value. So when you're talking about physical fitness, in order to achieve the level of protector, provider, presider that you desire, at least the men who listen to my podcast do and are part of our movement, is having that condition is locked in. So that's nutrition, it's diet, it's sleep, it's recovery, it's strength training, it's developing certain skills. I mean, I want to be around a man. I want to be the type of man and be around men who, if there was some sort of an emergency, let's say I got pinned under a vehicle, 2 or 3 of them could get together and lift the vehicle off my legs and rescue me. And I want to be the kind of guy who could do that for somebody else. I want to be the guy who can come home at the end of the day and you've got your sweet daughter there who isn't exhausted because he's 50, 60, 80, 100 pounds overweight and has worked 8 hours, but he can come home and say, I've got plenty of energy to go jump on the trampoline with you and bounce around and play and laugh and joke and everything else. Also, when it comes to diet, making sure that you're consuming the right fuel, honor the temple, like you said. I mean, I know that a Burger King double Whopper is going to be delicious right now, but I'm going to pay for it later. I'm going to feel gross. I'm going to feel sluggish. I'm going to be tired. And the rest of my day is not going to be as productive as if I had a good steak with some rice and some vegetables and drank a bunch of water. Now, I'm not here to tell you I'm the epitome of any of these things, but I do want to suggest that these are all areas of our lives that we should be working on and developing, because you just know you're going to feel better. This last week, I've analyzed, and I do this every day, I analyze just how I feel generally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And last night I was probably about 9 or 10 o'clock and I was wide awake. I wasn't tired, plenty of energy. I threw a 35-pound weighted vest on, and I went and walked for 4 miles almost 4 miles last night. And to me, I'm like, man, I feel good. I feel energized. Why do I feel like this? Well, for the past 3 days, I've cut out on carbonated drinks. I've cut out processed sugar minus my 1 Red Bull that I have in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I've eaten pretty clean, specifically over the past 3 days, cut out the glutens and the carbs and everything else and focused on fats, starches, and vegetables. I feel great. And it's no coincidence that I feel great when you start looking at how it correlates to the actions that you've taken.
Well, and tying into that, so, I think a lot of times when we see fitness type of content, right, it's these guys that are in the gym 6 to 8 hours a day. This is their life, right? And so oftentimes I think it gets stuck in between. Either you don't go to the gym or you're a gym rat, right? And there's no in between. And I think that's where a lot of the content gets kind of the blue ocean, right? That's the red ocean. The blue ocean is taking care of your physical and mental health, and what you eat and how you take care and the exercise that you do, not because you're over there trying to create that 8-pack or the 6-pack or just look sexy. It's about that energy, right? For my audience and for me as a father, I do want to come home and I want to spend time with my kids. Now, I'm naturally a skinny person. I will never be fat. It's just not in my genes. That's not in my genetic pool, right? But what I eat is going to change how I react when I get home, because I work behind a computer. I don't do manual labor. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an HVAC guy. I'm not in attics or under houses. I'm behind a computer screen all day, but it's exhausting. Right. It is mentally exhausting doing this all day, every day. It's a different kind of exhaustion. When I come home, if I had McDonald's for lunch or Chick-fil-A or whatever else, and I didn't take care of myself, when I come home, I go and lay in bed, and I don't want to, and I don't interact with my kids. And that's not fair to them. I was gone all day. So for me, physical and health and what I eat and nutrition is making a decision based on having the energy to spend time with my kids and to live a longer life. I'd like to meet my grandkids, and hopefully, if I'm lucky, my great grandkids. I want to see generations of me. I would love to go fishing with 4 generations of O'Briens on the boat. I think that's something I strive for.
I think it's a worthy goal. And if it keeps you on pace and keeps you on track, then use whatever tools you can to motivate, inspire, and create some of that discipline for you. I mean, there's other things too. We know the principles of health. Eat clean, move your body. And by the way, I'm not telling you that you should go be a power lifter or a marathon runner or an endurance athlete or be hyper-focused on martial arts of some form. I think all of those have their merit. And I think if it resonates with you and it's something that you want to do, great. I would also say recovery and sleep is something that's often overlooked. Are you getting the right type of sleep? Are you waking up well rested? Have you done your blood work? What are your testosterone levels? What is your level of fat, and how can you eliminate that from your life so that you can just live a more healthy life, be a model example to your children, and create a lot of opportunities along the way?
So a quick question on that. You ever do the IV drips? You ever done that stuff with
No.
Okay.
No, I never have. There's a lot of biohacking stuff out there that I think is fascinating, is interesting. I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of it can be valuable. I really do believe it can be valuable. But what I would like to see more regularly is guys hitting 80% of the basics. Are you running a calorie deficit, or at least are you neutral? Are you eating the right foods? Are you training 3 to 5 days a week in whatever your training module of choice is? Are you getting the proper sleep? Are you getting sun? Are you staying active? Are you stretching? I'd rather people focus on that at 80%, and then we can start getting into the fringe, different kind of IV drips and all kinds of stuff. I'm not discounting the fact that some of those things will work. You start getting into cold plunges and infrared heat and light, and it's all great, but I'm a busy guy. And, unless I'm Dave Asprey, I don't have, or Ben Greenfield, all the power to those guys. I think we need people who explore the fringes of what is possible, But I think most of us should focus on getting 80% locked in on what we know before we start investing too heavily in the fringes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely agree with that. I was just curious because I've done the IV drips before. I did a B12 drip. And it's kind of like an energy deal, right? Because energy is always my
Yeah.
big. I have 6 kids, so energy is extremely important in a
Yeah,
house
for
with 6
sure.
kids, right? You're in Utah. You're used to seeing that. I have a small
That's
number of kids
normal.
compared to Utah.
That's normal. I mean, I've got 4, so you've got me beat, but yeah, seeing families with 4, 5, 6, 8 kids is not out of the realm of possibility or out of the ordinary. That's for sure.
Why do you think so? Talking about that, right? Because I'm always curious. I like to dive into what's changed in our world. Like what happened was changed. Back in the day, having a lot of kids was the norm, right? That was a normal thing. Today, 1 to 2 kids. Actually, the birth rate is decreasing. A lot of people aren't even having kids at all anymore. But even the ones that do stick to 1 or 2. Do you think it's a financial decision? Do you feel like the world's becoming a little more self-centered and selfish? Do you think what do you think is the reasoning behind the decreased birth rate and where we're heading as a world, not just as a country, just in the world in general?
Well, I don't think it's a financial issue. People have been having kids for, thousands and thousands and thousands of years who are in extreme poverty and don't know where their next meal is going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's safe to say or even accurate to say that we have a financial crisis when it comes to raising kids. But I think it's 3 things. Number one, we live in an instant gratification society. And I believe that children enhance your life and add a whole lot of value. But it's an investment of time, and it takes time, and it takes energy, and it takes resources. And your daughter was on your lap and you're trying to do a podcast, and like it's such a beautiful thing, but on the surface it doesn't really feel like that if you've never experienced it. I
Mm-hmm.
would say in addition to that is just this era of selfishness that we live in. And I don't think you're inherently selfish if you choose not to have children, but I know that that's a huge driver. The phrase that you may have heard is DINKS, dual income, no kids. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
That people are wearing that around like a badge of honor. I'm just going to go out, make a bunch of money, have my own life, do what I want, and not have to have kids and not have to worry about it. And teach your own. That's your prerogative. But I'm telling you, if you're not having children, you're missing out on a crucial aspect of happiness and joy and legacy and investment in your cities and your neighborhoods and your countries. And just I think a really good way of life. And then I would say the third component is this constant pitting of women against men in society and culture. The feminist movement really has exacerbated this a lot over the past, I would say, probably 10, 15 years, maybe a little longer now, where, women men are the enemy and we don't need no man. And then you got guys on the men's movement sides that are villainizing women, that all women are this, all women are that. And so if you grow up in a younger generation and on one side of the aisle, all the women are being told how evil and horrible and villainous men are. And then on the other side, men are hearing this, how women are gold diggers and they don't add any value and you don't need women in your life, just ride solo, involuntary celibate, et cetera, et cetera. Is it any wonder why men and women aren't getting together anymore? The amount of men and women who are no longer even forming relationships. They're not having sex. They're not getting married. It's happening later and later. They're not having kids. It's going to present a real problem for us unless we can alter the conversation and teach women that men are not the enemy, and build a host of men who are honorable and strong and bold and courageous and masculine, and then teaching men that women aren't the problem, and all the while making sure that we acknowledge women for their beauty and their loveliness and their ability to nurture and support, and that they don't have to go out into the workforce to be quote unquote equal in worth to a man.
It's
But
funny.
unless these conversations change, we're not going to see changes.
Going on that last part that you talked about, when I first met my wife 12 years ago, I told her I was very forward from the very beginning. I want kids, and I want you to be at home raising those kids. I don't want them to go to daycare. I don't want them to be raised by teachers. Like, I want you instilling the core values, the ethics, and everything into my children. I don't want that to be done by daycares or nannies or any of that, right? I want you doing that. And we had that conversation. It took years for her not to see that as a degrading role, right? She used to think that was such a degrading thing, that, oh, you just want to control me. You want to be in control of all the money and all that. And it was never that in my mind. It was, you're the mom, you're there to nurture and care for my children, and I'm going to do everything I can to provide the environment so you can do that. So we don't both have to go to work, and so my kids aren't raised by strangers who I've never met before. And so I think that's a huge deal happening for the women's side, is they're being told that it's degrading. And I don't think there's anything degrading about being a mom. I think it's more powerful and more empowering than any career, than any woman can have, than any woman that could be president or astronaut or anything. Being a mother and raising children, I think, is the best calling a woman could ever do. And on the man's side, dealing with a lot of dads, I hear a lot of horror stories from family courts, and a lot of men are jaded, and rightfully so, right? They have things were lied about and things were said in family court that were not true. And I think that that's also the attorneys coming in and whispering in everybody's ears saying, hey, say that they did this or say that they did this so that you can get what you want. You can get more money. You can get more time. You can get whatever it is, right? It's a very dirty process, family court is. But one thing I'm trying to do here at Dad Tribes is I'm trying to empower men, but at the same time, empower men to love the women that gave birth to their children, whether they are with them or not, right? And it's to show that love and that compassion, because no matter who they are, no matter what demon went into their ear and told them to say whatever was said, if as men, if we love that woman, no matter her choices, later in life, our kids will notice that. And if that woman is not a good person or becomes not a good person, your children will naturally find that out on their own without you needing to help or support that ideation, right? If you are there to show the compassion and the love, and they see that from dad, over time, your children will notice that naturally.
Yeah, I think they will, and I just think you can sleep better at night. I went through a divorce several years ago, almost 3 years ago now, and I don't speak ill of their mother to my kids, because I don't need to undermine that I actually don't have ill things to say, but I don't need to undermine that relationship just so I can get back at her or make myself feel. That doesn't make me feel better to do that.
Right.
And so you better believe I'm going to do everything I can to protect my rights as a man and also as a father, but I don't need to villainize anyone, and I'm not interested in doing that. What I'm interested in doing is being the best type of man that I can be, and letting the chips fall where they may, having faith that if I do the right things over sustained periods of time, then I will be the beneficiary of the blessings that come with it, whether it's a deeper connection with my kids or financial prosperity and abundance, or a sense of pride and accomplishment for the men that we serve who are doing the same thing in their lives. Do the right things, the results follow.
Man, so hearing you talk about your son, I remember back in the day when I was following you, he was helping you load up all the hats that you were shipping out and doing all that.
Yeah.
Was years ago. I think he was a little bit older then, so he's probably quite a bit older now. How old is that one that was helping you load all the hats up years ago?
Yeah, so my oldest is 17 now. He's a senior in high school. So he's, they keep getting older. And my youngest actually spends a lot of time. My youngest son helps me quite a bit, and he's 9. So now he's kind of taken over that role. And when we started, my oldest son was that age. So it's funny to see how it's graduated over time, and my next child takes over, then the next one, then the next one. And here we are in the 4th iteration. And my youngest son and I are having a really good time when we get out there and do those things. And he likes to earn a little bit more money, and it helps and saves me money. So, and it gives us an opportunity to spend time together. So it was one of the best moves I ever made. It's such a simple little decision, but it's one of the best decisions I made in business.
So your 17-year-old, is he still is he entrepreneurial? Is he more geared towards a different career field, or where is he heading right now?
He's primarily focused now on lacrosse. He's big into lacrosse. He spent a lot of time doing that. He's talked about desires to go play lacrosse in college. And he's kind of waffled around on that a little bit. He's got an incredible eye when it comes to photography. We've got a really nice setup that we invested in over the past couple of years, and we've switched out some lenses and learned a couple things here and there. And I would actually love to see him develop that. So I'm having him help me with my store and some photography for the business, but he likes sports photography. So even tonight, in fact, he's being paid to go take pictures for a game. And then tomorrow, I think, is homecoming, and he's got 3 or 4 different couples that are paying him to take their pictures for homecoming. So he likes that side of things. I'm a marketer by heart, so I can help him with the marketing side, but he's got a wonderful eye for those things. And I'd like to see him develop that a little bit more and see where it goes.
See, it's amazing because, I mean, you have 4 kids. I have 6. Something that you realize is that not a single child is like the other one, right? They may have some
Right.
similarities in certain areas, but not. They're raised in the same house by the same people, same core values, same ethics, same morals, but they all turn out to be completely different people.
Yeah.
So, you know, my son, he's 11. My oldest is 17, but she's high functioning autistic. And so she's a whole different world for us. Right. And that's been its own challenge and adventure for us. But my son being 11, he's got the bug. He's got the entrepreneurial bug. It's just in him. And I actually tried my hardest to get it out of him. I try to suggest, hey, you need to go be an engineer and do this and do that. But the bug is there. And now that I've noticed that, one thing I don't do is I don't force my kids to be what I think they should be. You know, I can guide them and I can support them. I can give them suggestions. But, you know, when it comes to, you know, being an entrepreneur, you've had your ups and downs. Now you've created more stability now over the years of, I mean, how long has Order of Man been around?
10 years. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary in March of this year.
Oh, wow. So 10 years. So 10 years in, you've got a little more stability. You know a little bit more about what you're doing, right? One thing I told them is CPAs are your best friend, and lawyers, unfortunately, are a needed thing that you're going to have to deal with in business.
No doubt.
But so talking about, because I was thinking about when your son was doing that, helping you in the business. Now your 9-year-old is doing it. Your oldest is still on the photography side. He's still, you know, it's like a side gig. He's got a little hustle going where he's making some money for himself as well.
Right.
So a big part of this show is not geared just to dads, right? It's about dads always trying to be better. But it's also the dads that maybe have gotten stuck in that corporate 9-to-5 job, and they know that they feel that they were meant for more. You know what I mean? They look in the mirror and they just feel like, this isn't what I was meant to do the rest of my life. They're providing for their family, doing what they feel is necessary, but they're just stuck. They feel like they're stuck in their career field. They feel like they want to take this jump and this leap of faith, like whether it's entrepreneurship or career change or whatever. There's just something pulling at them saying to do it. But the biggest fear is the stability, right? Well, if I do that, I'm putting my family at risk. I mean, you've been doing Order of Man for 10 years. When you first started it, what were you doing? Did you have a full-time job when you first started Order of Man? What was that process from like the beginning to where you are now? Did you have a job and did you take the leap? Like what that looked like?
Yeah, when I started Order of Man in 2015, I had been running my own financial advisory firm. I'd been in the financial planning business for 10 years, but I had my own registered investment advisory firm for about 5 years or so, give or take. And I started Order of Man as just a side project. I started a little podcast and a website and grew it and was having fun with it. And it quickly took off. And over time, very quickly, actually, within a matter of 5 to 6 months, I realized this is consuming a lot of my time. I think 6 months into it, I made my first dollar creating a course, a 12-week course for 12 guys. And that's how I initially springboarded it into an actual revenue producing activity. But then within, I would say, a year and a half, I'd have to look at the timeline exactly. Within a year and a half, 2 years tops, no longer than 2 years, I actually ended up selling my financial planning practice and going all in on this Order of Man thing. And when I did, it really took off because of how much time was dedicated to making it work and growing it. So I was in a little bit of a different position in that I owned my book of business. So I was able to sell that and finance the time it took to grow Order of Man into something that was full-time revenue for me. So yeah, I mean, I had to take that leap of faith, but I did have a little bit of a buffer that I had built in by owning my own financial planning practice. And that's part of the reason I do get frustrated when I hear guys will say, burn the boats and go all in. And you ask them what they did, and they're like, well, my situation was different. And yeah, of course, it's easy to gamble with somebody else's prosperity than it is yours. But I would say there's so many opportunities for anybody who is in that corporate environment, moving up the corporate chain of command, the 9-to-5 job. If they really are interested in creating something on the side, I think there is plenty of time, even though it may not always feel like it, to go ahead and do something like that. When I was doing the financial planning stuff, I would get up early in the morning, spend an hour or two on Order of Man, then go do my financial planning stuff. During my breaks and in between clients, I do more with Order of Man. Maybe I'd take an interview or something during the day. And then I'd get home and I'd do dinner and spend a little time with the family. And after the kids went to bed, I'd spend another hour or two on Order of Man stuff. So yeah, if you want it, you'll make it work. And other things will suffer. Relationships might suffer a little bit. Your fitness might suffer a little bit. Your bank account will probably suffer for a little bit. But if you want it, then there's a price to pay, and you have to be willing to pay it, or you won't have it.
Yeah, and I think if you're passionate about it, it doesn't bother you. The sacrifices that you have to make, right? Because I think a lot of people,
not only does it not bother you, you're excited about it.
Yeah, you can't sleep. You can't sleep not because of stress, but because of excitement, right? Like your brain is going 100 miles an hour. You're laying in bed trying to force yourself to go to sleep, but you don't want to. Like you can do this one fix on this website, or launch this one shirt, or write a post about this, or you know what I mean. Your brain is just going nonstop. And I think a lot of times people get stuck on like this side gig idea of, oh, I can do a side hustle, I can make a bunch of money. If that's where your mind is, it's never going to work out for you. Very rarely does someone who goes in with the idea of I need to make a bunch of money succeed. It's always going to be more of a passion project that becomes something, because Lone Star Dads was the same thing. I didn't have a book of business, but I had a $90,000 a year job, which at that time, I had built my 7-figure PR firm, crashed and burned it. I built up the veteran group, and I became too controversial. I took way too much of a controversial standpoint at that point. And I was just an angry man back then. And then I went through my life transitions, which I've shared with you. And then I took a break. I said, I'm going to take a break from entrepreneurship, get a full-time job. I had a $90,000 a year salary position, which back in 2020 was good money. $90,000 a year was not a small amount of income, right? We weren't rich by any means, but bills were paid and we were okay. 3 months into Lone Star Dads, I saw it take off, and I was like, all right, that's it, man. I see it. I made $20,000 in the first 90 days of launching Lone Star Dads. And I was like, man, if I did that in 90 days side hustling it, what is it going to be like if I just go all in? And so I talked to my wife, and I said, hey, I'm miserable doing this $90,000 a year job. My bosses weren't bad people. I wasn't made to be an employee. It's just not in me. And so I told her, I was like, I'm miserable. I know I'm paying the bills, but I'm waking up and I hate my life every day. I hate my job. I hate what I'm doing. And it's affecting my relationship with you. It's affecting my relationship with my kids. I was like, I gotta jump and I gotta dive in. And she said, let's do it. Let's go for it. I didn't necessarily ask for permission, but I shared what I felt. You know what I mean? I was like, look, this is it. If you don't want to be with me, I fully understand. But I can't. This is not who I am. I am not a 9-to-5 guy. That's just not in me. And I don't know why. It's just never, I did the Army, right? But that wasn't really a choice. I signed a contract and was forced to do it. If I could have quit, I probably would have. But I couldn't, right? And I enjoyed it. I was also young and needed to grow up. The Army was my daddy. It kind of gave me structure and discipline that I needed to have. Because I'm like you. I grew up with not a solid male role model in my life, and I think the Army kind of played that for me, right? And a positive and a negative way. There's a lot of drinking involved, but it definitely was. For you, was that like the Army for you? Was that kind of like your daddy? It gave you that male role model and that trajectory.
I would say that goes back to what I was saying earlier about having good men in your life and having a brotherhood. The military represented that for me. I was in the Army National Guard, so it wasn't something that I was doing full time. But yeah, I had great friendships and great camaraderie, and I learned a lot by those activities. I was in Iraq in 2005 and 2006. That was an instrumental moment in my life. Fortunately, I had great coaches, high school football and baseball and wrestling coaches. That was a big help for me. But yeah, military was an integral part in my development as a young man. And unfortunately, the institutions that are notorious for lifting men up throughout modern civilization are just being completely decimated. The military, up until the last 8 months now, at this point, 8-9 months, was a breeding ground for wokeness and for going out, quite literally, commercials about finding your own identity in the military. It's like, no, it's the exact opposite. You come in and you do it this way, and we'll help you be a better human being. And you've seen that change. Then you have institutions like the Boy Scouts, which is now just called the Scouts. And I remember talking about this years ago, how the Boy Scouts was a dying organization. I had people laugh and mock the idea that I would even say that. And look where they are now. These are not surprising things. When you strip away the institutions that do a wonderful job at developing young men into boys, I should say, into young men, it's not any surprise that we have just such a degenerate culture of anger and immaturity and hostility and lack of responsibility. Of course, we've bred that into our youth, and it's unfortunate, to say the least, the very least.
Do you still do those events? Because I know back whenever I first was watching you, you were doing these in-person events where men could bring their sons out. And do you remember doing those? Like, do you still offer those?
Yeah, we do. So we've got quite a few events that we run. We have our uprising event, so that's men only, and then we have our father-son event. That's what you're referring to, which is called Legacy. And then we have another event that I just did earlier this spring, and we're doing another one again next year called Forge. So yeah, we do run those events, and those are very, very powerful experiences for men and boys to learn how to be better men and boys. Unfortunately, they're long weekends. It's not something that they're doing every day, all day. So that's part of the issue as well.
Right. And I know you have a trailer on your YouTube channel that I think is it gave me chills, right? So I watched the trailer on your YouTube channel. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know if it's the same one or it's a different one, but I watched it a couple of days ago, man. It just shot chills down my spine of just that the music and the message and the word behind it. So anybody watching this, go look up Order of Man on YouTube, watch that trailer. And I think just watching that trailer alone is going to pull you in to the Order of Man and into the Iron Council. You're not accepting anybody into the Iron Council right now, are you? Doors are closed.
Well, we open on the 15th of September. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I've had a handful of guys reach out and ask if they can join early, and we're implementing some new, I can't really disclose all of it, but we're implementing some new ways to onboard men into the Iron Council so that they get maximum experience and benefit as soon as possible. So I've had a handful of guys who I've said, here, we're going to help you get on board as quickly as you possibly can, and here's how you're going to do it. And it's been pretty cool to see the growth that is coming in these men that we're working with.
Well, perfect. So if you're watching this, go look at Order of Man on YouTube. Look up Iron Council. It's just ironcouncil.com. And you can read more about everything that Ryan does, both with Order of Man and the Iron Council. I think it's a very powerful organization. Follow Ryan, follow what they're doing over there. And Ryan, have y'all, this one last question. Have y'all written like a manifesto? Do you have like an Order of Man manifesto? Or is that really what the trailer is?
I've got two books that I've written. One is Sovereignty, the Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men. The other one is called the Masculinity Manifesto. So it's interesting you'd use that word. But we are in the process of putting together some more succinct stuff as opposed to a book that actually just gives a synopsis and overview of what we do inside of our organizations.
So if you like Dad Tribes, you're going to love Order of Man. And definitely follow along with everything Ryan's doing. Ryan, if you had one piece of advice you give any dad listening to this right now, he feels stuck. And he's either stuck in his marriage and his career, in his life and his health. He's just stuck somewhere. what is one thing that you would tell them?
I think in alignment with both of our missions, you need to get yourself around other men in a very deliberate and clear way. It cannot be done by default. It cannot be done in the way that you've always done it. Otherwise, if it was going to work, it already would have. So if you're feeling stuck, then find a tribe, find a group, find a council, find whatever. If it's yours, great. If it's mine, great. If it's something else, great. But make sure you're banded with other men who are interested in development. It's not enough to be banded with men who are just your neighbors or your wife's friends' husbands. Be deliberate, be intentional, put yourself out there, make a little investment, financial, time, energy, resources, and I promise it will come back to you tenfold, but you have to put yourself out there to do it.
Great. Well, thank you again, Ryan, for coming on the show. Everybody go to orderofman.com, ironcouncil.com. Ryan, thank you for taking the time to be on the show with me, man.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this. It's crucial work, so I'm happy to be part of it, and it sounds like you're doing some good things on your end too.